How should one say times aloud in 24-hour notation? A couple years ago, I switched all my personal clocks 24-hour notation. I live in the US, and 24-hour time is used very, very rarely. So, I haven't been able to listen to anyone say times aloud. Here's my question: what is the proper way to say a time aloud in 24-hour notation? 15 o'clock sounds bad to me. I think I like 15 hours best, but it sounds a little formal. 15:22 sounds okay to me, but still strange. Is there a best practice here?
In 24-hour notation you never say o'clock. Say the value of the hours part first, then the minutes. If the hours or minutes are less than 10, say O, for 0, first. Non-military people don't usually say the O before hours, especially if the minutes are non-zero. If the minutes are 0, say, hours, 100. People, ESB military, often say 100 hours, ESB if the hours are less than 10. 0700, 0700, hours. 0701, 0701. 1500, 1500. 1503, 1503. 1510, 1510. 1559, 1559. I think there's a big problem with 1000. Nobody much likes saying 1000, but I don't know how you get around that if you must speak in 24-hour notation. Most people just say 10 o'clock and forget it. In practice many of us mix traditional and 24-hour because, like you, I suspect, we have digital displays and can't always be bothered to mentally convert, say, 1550 into 10 to 4 before speaking. You have to decide how far you want to take your own usage, partly dependent on how good you are at mental arithmetic. Smile. I recommend reverting to traditional for 1000 at the very least. Later, since posting this I've realized American, not British, usage accepts 15 o'clock, for example, for exact hour times after midday. But if you follow that link it's obvious this usage has fallen off significantly since the war. And if you switch the corpus to British, you'll see we've never used it enough to even show on the graph.
The armed services, and their veterans, really have this ingrained in my mind as such. Rendezvous at 0600, 0600, hours. Drop point is X degrees north, at 1200, 1200, hours. Otherwise, we're more precise in terms of declaring minutes. You can just split them and speak each unit of time individually. Your meeting is at 1530, 1530, hours. Your meeting is at 1812, 1812, hours. The hours here, it might be argued, is redundant or even inaccurate, but that doesn't dictate the occurrences, or exclusion of such, in speech. You could go the quarter to, half past route, but this is an interchangeable method of speaking time, not exclusive to verbalizing time in its 24 hours form. Since a clock is an abbreviation of the clock, I guess that technically you could speak in this manner in terms of 24 hours, such as 15 o'clock. But this might sound a little peculiar to most. If we look at the definition of a clock from the Free Dictionary, then it kind of indicates we would be playing it safer to use another form. Of or according to the clock, 3 apostrophe clock. According to an imaginary clock dial with the observer at the center, and 12 o'clock considered as straight ahead in horizontal position or straight up in vertical position. Used to indicate a relative position, enemy planes at 10 apostrophe clock. Used after a number from 1 to 12 to indicate the hour of the day or night. Mathematics and amp. Measurements, navigation, used after a number to indicate direction or position relative to the observer, 12 o'clock being directly ahead or overhead and other positions being obtained by comparisons with a clock face. If we do decide to use the 24 o'clock approach, then it's just redundant, if nothing else. Consider the note on relativity to the face, direction. Since, regardless of the numbers being bigger, we don't have to, necessarily, do any extra laps around the clock face to arrive at the specified location, but in cases where AM and PM might not be clearly implied, it could serve to do that.
When I lived in Japan, they generally used the 24-hour clock,
but in speech they translated the hour on the fly, so 1300 hours on the clock was e.g. 1 o'clock.
I know you can't hear them in the USA, but take these examples from British railway station announcements.
According to the BBC World Service, the correct notation is 15 hours GMT. They used to say 1500 hours, but they've dropped that now.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.